Coming up this week on the show, we're going to do a short news update. Gary's here, and I wanted to catch up on some of the projects he's working on. Some of the projects I've been working on, some drum machine stuff, some music tech stuff. Gary's got some smart home and EV news. So let's get straight to Gary. Gary, good evening.
Good evening.
And it's good to be. Just got a chance to do a catch-up show, really, because we've been busy with interviews for the last few weeks.
It was a brilliant music video. So music interviews, I've really enjoyed that stuff you've been talking to.
The last one, the one I actually pre-recorded it and I sort of released it last week. So the guy that developed I think I talked about it, the GNSX 1000 plugin. Yeah. So he was on it, and he was a nice guy. Actually, it turns out he's just a really enthusiastic he's Italian, Italian, and he loved that little synth and created his own. I really like the developers that have a story like that. That it's not a big corporate thing. It's somebody who's just got a passion for that. And
excellent. When you can get that, that's really cool.
Yeah. So that was last week's show. So I thought we'd try and do some catch up. So I've got some stuff I've been doing, especially playing with this drum machine as well. But before we get onto that, and I've got some multi-poly stuff as well. So let's go and update on some of the projects and things you've been working on. And I know you said you've got a charging thing you wanted to tell us as well.
Yeah, well, let's start with that. So I've been travelling quite a bit in the last few days. Down south. I was down in Somerset and stopped off at the Gloucester services. These are the famous farm shop services, which are really good, and they've got their own charger network for those services. They're run by eVolt, which is what was the same. It's basically the same people who run the ChargeSpace Scotland system, which had its issues in the past, but these seem to work really well. I couldn't get the Octopus Electroverse card to work on them, but that's supposed to work on them. But they were, without that, playing just contactless and plugged in, went charging really good. And we also stopped at a hotel or motel en route as well, Molly's down in Bristol, and that had its own destination chargers again, which was really clever actually. And I've not really seen this operationally done before, but they have their own motel app. And when you checked in, or at least actually as you arrived, on the time you arrived, it popped up a little button on the app, which wasn't there beforehand, but basically saying, "Do you want to charge?" And you can tap it, and then you start charging on the machines. And that worked really well. So, and that's destination charge. And I think more hotels should have destination. They've got a lot of destination charges there. It makes a lot of sense because you use a lot less power for destination charge. If you're a hotel, you can stay overnight. It doesn't make sense to have high-speed charges at the hotels. So that was really good to see, and it's really interesting to start seeing all these different networks start popping up. We've talked about the past GridServe and a couple of other people as well out there, but there's all sorts of ones. I charged an eVive charger as well, and that worked really well. But most of them are now on the Electroverse card, which makes either you use credit card or you use the Electroverse card. And anyway, you go and charge. But one of the interesting things on Electroverse is they're now doing some off-peak deals. So if you're having to charge at a certain time of day on certain charges with them, you get a discount because it's basically the network's not being used as much, so electricity is cheaper, which is really good because I think that's something where the charging networks need to do more. So that's interesting. So that's all good news on the electrical front. On the not quite so good news on the electric front, you remember we spoke about Ripple Energy a few months back, the solar farm and wind farms you can invest in as a great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Ripple have gone bust this. Well, they've gone into receivership this week. So it's interesting because although it sounds a bad news story, it's not actually that. Hopefully not that bad for the investors, because the money that the investors have placed is actually in a cooperative, which was, so let me get this exactly right, because there were two types of investors. There were investors in Ripple themselves, and they would have lost money on this, but the people who actually invested in the wind farms and the solar farms were in a co-op, which is they're still running. And those co-ops are now looking for someone else to actually manage them, because basically Ripple was just the management company here. They were providing the ability to take the money and the ability to run the charges. So we'll have to see how it pans out and see what it goes. I think they just overstretched themselves, to be honest. I think it was they got a bit ambitious with advertising and some of the stuff they were doing, and things, and also electricity rates dropped a bit over the last few years. So it became, I think they weren't making as much money as they had anticipated making, and it became difficult to run it. So we'll hear more on that later, but it does mean that whether someone else comes into the fold and takes over that, the receivers are hoping to sell it as a going concern. We'll see how it goes. It might pan out that process is still around, but yeah, I mean, it's a shame that they put a lot of effort in and they couldn't make money out of it. But so these things happen, and the environment at the moment is very tough for businesses generally. So yeah, it's a shame, but yeah, it's happened, and something to be aware of if you're investing in any of those, and you should be being contacted about it if you are invested in any of those bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was kind of where I am on that. On the other things, I mean, I've mentioned a couple of my little projects over the last few months. The rain sensor, I'm incredibly impressed with that rain sensor I mentioned a few weeks back. It's been running now for, I think, 7 weeks. This is the little Zigbee rain sensor, which is just outside my door. And it's still on 96% power, which is pretty incredible for a little battery-powered device. So yeah, I'm impressed with that. That's working out. Some of the other sensors I get don't last anywhere near as long as that long battery. So that's really good to see that. Yeah.
No, that's. I think actually someone asked me about protocols and stuff, and I forget what it was, but yeah, the Wiz smart plug. Someone asked me, what smart home protocol is that using? What's the IoT protocol? But I guess these things are often proprietary, aren't they? And something like the Wiz one will be proprietary.
I think it's Wi-Fi, isn't it? So it will be proprietary of some sort. I mean, a lot of them are starting to move. The Wi-Fi devices are starting to move to Matter over Wi-Fi as a standard, because it's easy enough to implement that if you've already got Wi-Fi. And I think Wiz are going that way. I have to double check.
Yeah, that would make sense, and I suppose that would stop things being locked to a certain service provider and all that kind of thing. But yeah, as we talked about in the past, those plugs get they get stopped supported, and that's it then, isn't it?
Yeah. So all modern Wiz lights will support Matter. So that's anything more developed after Q2 2021. So you'd move on to Matter, and that obviously gives you a lot more compatibility then.
Yeah. I think I'm actually going to think of getting some new blinds, and I was thinking of getting one of the electric blinds. A lot of them are you sort of use IR, and of course I've got the Logitech IR blaster connected to Alexa, so actually I could use that. But I know some of them have got different smart home standards as well, so I'm not quite sure which one I'll go for. What maybe later this year I'll have a look at them. But yeah, I think it'd be nice to have sort of Alexa controlled over the blinds, especially. The sun comes quite low in, and you can just close the blinds, and you can have a bit. I could maybe have some intelligence on it or something like that. So I'm definitely going to think about that. I think you got something similar, didn't you, with the timings of the sun and everything else?
Yeah. I think that's really. I mean, I use IKEA-based blinds, but you can do it with anything. And the way I do it is I've got in Smart Things, I've got the ability to have a virtual calendar effectively, and in that I have the azimuth of the sun and all its position basically in the sky, so I can work out when it's going to blind me, and it drops the blinds. It's not always 100% accurate. Last week it was struggling a bit, but I think mainly because I don't really expect the sun to be as bright as it was last week. So I at this time of year, so I hadn't really allowed for that. So I've adjusted that a bit. But when it's working, it works really well, because it doesn't. So one of the key things is it doesn't fully drop the blinds. It just drops them enough to block out the light. So I've still got light coming in, but it's not blinding light where I'm sitting. So yeah, works really well.
Yeah. Some of the things I've been working on, I've done quite a few bits with this drum machine now. I'm learning this drum machine. I don't know whether I mentioned it last week, which patterns I was working on. I did the In the Air Tonight one, but let me. I don't know whether I'll be able to play this actually through, but I've been working on. I have to share audio. We always have fun sharing audio on Teams, don't we? But let's share the audio, and then I'll share my browser. Okay, so this is one that I've been working on. I don't know if you can hear that or not.
Yeah, hear that go.
Yeah, so that's the Enola Gay sound, and it was actually, I had to recreate it from scratch because the fillings on the Behringer one aren't quite the same as the original CR78, so I did it from scratch. But yeah, there's a little guide there, so if you've got one of the machines, you can step by step go through it. Let me show you another one I've done. Of course, I had to do a couple of Phil Collins and Genesis ones. So this is one of my favorite ones. So this one's quite good because Phil Collins actually plays the drum machine real time. So not only is he got that pattern, he's bringing the sound in and out using the sliders. So I worked out how he did that and then set that up as well, so you can do that one. So it's quite a sort of hypnotic one, that one. And of course, there's another one I want to show you as well. Oh, Fade to Grey. That's another one I did. You know, the Visage ones. I did that one, but then copied and programmed in the wrong preset. So thanks to everybody that corrected me on that. And there was a lot of people. So I've recreated that one. So that's the Visage Fade to Grey. And I've done In the Air Tonight, and I've got some others that I've been working on as well. So yeah, quite enjoyed doing those. In fact, I can show you In the Air Tonight in a second. But yeah, I quite enjoyed programming those. So it's a lot of trial and error, and yeah, you can easily get it wrong. And when you do get it wrong, people certainly let you know. Let me just flip back on that one. So I've been doing that one. The other thing that I've been working on is sort of a deep dive into modulation on the multi-poly. So there's so much you can do. I think we touched on it with Pete Swartz a few weeks ago when he was on, but I've got a real deep dive one as well. So check out that one. This is In the Air Tonight. I think you can tell that one is. Oh, and a bit of keyboard on there as well.
Nice. Yeah. They're definitely in the air tonight.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of that I've been working on. So I've been working on these this week, and I'm also going to have there's a few sound sets that I've been working on. One is the PPG Wave. So I'm going to have a go at doing some stuff on that as well. So I've assembled all these original source waves from the PPG Wave, the 1983 PPG Wave, and used by Depeche Mode and Tangerine Dream and others. So I've got the original wave tables from that, and I'm going to try and create some new and copy some of the original sounds on that as well. So I've just been programming those. So yeah, I got through there. So yeah, that Behringer drum machine though, quite a little fun device. They've just kind of copied it, but half. They've not done half a job, I would say. They've got the sounds right, but they've got the patterns wrong. And I wondered whether that's probably for copyright reasons, that the presets themselves are 99% there, but not quite. So like the standard presets are fine, but that the drum fill preset is not the same. So if I'm trying to do John Fox Underpass, which is actually a brilliant track that uses it, but the fill's not right, so it means I've got to manually create it. But then trying to find that, I can't find any notation for it, so it's just purely doing it by ear. So it's proving to be quite tricky, but yeah, it's fun to do. So yeah, I'm enjoying doing that one. So people are throwing me these challenges, giving me different ones to do. So if there's anybody else has got suggestions for the CR78 rhythms, then they can let me know, and I'll have a go at programming those. But it's quite a challenge. But I've also got a couple of some shorts out as well, some on our YouTube channel as well, which has got some VHS, some of the PPG sounds on there as well. And I think I heard another tutorial as well. Drum sounds is coming up soon as well. So how to do analog drum sounds on the multi-poly. So I saw Behringer have actually brought out a clone of the PPG Wave as well. So it's a keyboard that's a clone of the PPG Wave, 500 odd quid, which is not that expensive considering what probably one of the, if you want to try and buy a PPG Wave, but I really haven't got the space to physically put any more keyboards in here. So there's no space. Little drum machine's fine, but full keyboard, no, not gonna happen unless I can double those racks somehow, but I don't think so. So I'll limit myself for now. I also been installing the new builds of Windows 11, but not that much in there. A couple of fixes and things. I've been trying to get the MIDI stuff working. I'm a bit mixed success with that. It was working and then it stopped. So in these current builds, it doesn't see any MIDI devices put in my machine at all.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. I was playing a bit with it. I was trying to get the D110 to talk to it, and it just wouldn't talk. So I think it's a problem.
It just doesn't detect any. I plugged, because I've got a hub. I plugged the hub from my main machine into my laptop, which is running inside of builds, and it didn't see any of the MIDI ports. So I just plugged the USB one directly in, and that one didn't see it either. So yeah, I presume there's a bug in it. So I wanted to try the sort of the direct MIDI routing and things like that, but I think we'll have to wait till we get a later build on that. I noticed a couple of bits and pieces. I noticed in the Canary builds they changed the battery icon as well. It actually looks better and represents the battery time a bit better now as well, which is quite. But it's green when it's charging, and it's got different color statuses on it now as well, which is quite good. So yeah, but other than that, there's not a huge amount of changes in these builds. But they must be getting close to. We must be getting to 25 something.
Yeah, soon. You'd think so, wouldn't you? I mean, build's not far around the corner, so maybe that's well, they'll launch something.
Maybe, that'd be true. That's true. Yeah, I'll look to see that. And I guess that would be when the MIDI features would come into the and the new audio stack as well, which is supposed to come in. I don't know whether that's coming to this year, but they're talking about it. And I think all those I need to get hold of an ARM device. So I'd like to try some of the built-in audio drivers and with the ARM device, because you can get Cubase native for ARM now and things like that. So I think that'd be quite interesting to try those as well. So I need to try and get one of those. But again, no, I can't buy anything else. Spent enough. Now is the time to use what I've got. What else have we got? Oh, I've been doing a lot of stuff slightly unrelated to this, but doing a lot with the Copilot. I was using the Copilot in Visual Studio, and I hadn't used it before. So it was a new project to working on, and I was amazed how well that works. So I was writing some functions, and I remember the old snippets things where, if you wanted to do something like, get a file from a TP or read a folder, there was the snippets in the Visual Studio where you can right click and do that. Yeah. But now you can just more or less write your comment of what you want it to do, and then you start typing the code out, and it just fills it all in. And because it's read your code, if you've referenced, say, text boxes with field names, it pulls that in. It's really quick. I was really surprised. I don't know whether you've been using it for a while, but yeah, it was the first time I really used it. But I was really surprised at how well it wrote code in the way that I would write it using my field names and everything.
Yeah, it's I mean, especially with the sort of, there's a new agent mode which is coming along in the later preview versions, and that is even cleverer doing some of that stuff. It's very instinctive. I mean, you still have to know what you're writing, because you still gets it wrong quite a bit of the time. But yeah, it's good. I mean, I love the PR review, the so pull request review stuff. So because obviously senior dev type thing, I need to look at other people's code and see what they're doing, and it just summarizes things so really well. But yeah, so
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, it's actually challenging being able to use that technology in a lot of companies. A lot of companies don't are still cautious about the whole copyright side of things and the fact that your code goes up to the cloud and this and that sort of thing like that. So there's still some challenges of actually using it, but for my personal projects, I use it a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And talking
about
AI stuff, that's actually one thing I wanted to mention. Some of the stuff I've been doing on AI with the smart home, because I think I've mentioned this briefly before, but I've integrated into my camera system a quite an interesting set of AI stuff, because it's all open source based, and it's actually the Code Project AI. Do you remember Code Project?
Yeah, yeah.
So Code Project has its own AI server, which is completely free to use, and it has some really good standard features built into it, so like subject recognition and things. So and number plate recognition, which is particularly useful. So, for example, I've got a camera which monitors my driveway and the gate on my driveway, and if a car reverses onto my drive, the first thing it happens now is the AI is analysing the number plate of that car. And basically, if it's a car which we're not expecting, I get an alert. If it's one of the family coming home, I get an alert saying, so partner's car's now on the drive. And equally, if a car leaves the drive, I get an alert. So if the car leaves at a time you're not expecting to. Now, we've got gates, so it's unlikely we're just going to drive off with something. But it's still reassuring to have that analysis there. But you can get clever in that. You can actually combine the car and the person, because it recognises I've got people that it recognises, and it's certainly got patterns about things that you should know about. And I've now got it to the point where it also reminds me of things. So obviously I have to pick my daughters up from nursery on regular time span. If I haven't gone out to the car to get in the car at the right time, it starts sending me alerts. So you can get some really clever sort of learning patterns on that sort of stuff. And I say it is absolutely free. Keeps getting enhanced. Some really nice bits on it, and it's just got some. Yeah, so it's got a really good API actually. You can if you're a programmer, you can do some really clever stuff with it. But it's also got some nice bits built in it if you're a blogger or a podcaster. it could do some quite nice things just in the background, and it has the ability to do things like background removal on pictures and stuff like that, just built into it, so you don't have to use a third-party tool for that. So it's nice. It's got some very cool things.
It's I'm interested. Actually, I'm going to try. I'll have to try doing the show notes through the using the transcripts from Teams and doing it, because I've seen that you can do that, can't you? And then and I noticed there's actually another add-in for Teams, isn't there? Or another, not Teams, Microsoft 365. There's the Copilot that comes. There's the free version, effectively, or the in-license version, and an extra £30 a month version as well, that sort of reads your email and is supposedly secure with corporate data and everything else. I did give it a try, and it looks actually quite interesting. I've got if you've got a meeting coming up with someone, it's kind of in the thing is saying, remind me the conversation, last 4 conversations we've had with this person, and summarize it, and it does all that as well. So that looks quite interesting as well. But it's quite expensive, that if you're thinking 30 pounds or €30 a month, okay, it's not too bad. But then when you start timesing it by the number of employees in an enterprise, it gets really expensive. But so I'm not sure it's that much time saving yet, but the potential's there anyway. Yeah, so I think I'll perhaps try and summarize this the show notes with the with the transcript. You never know. I might be able to put something. So if you see some summary, then you know where it got it from. So I think that's all I wanted to catch up on for this week's show. Nice and brief. We'll be back. I think we've got a guest next week. I can't remember. We've got quite a lot of guests booked in, so I can't remember who's booked in. But I think we'll have another guest next week anyway. We've got guests all the way through the next few months, I think, really, which is really good. So we had a lot of requests for people to guests to join the show. So I think that's always really nice. So Gary, where can we find you and your EV channel?
But you can find me on YouTube as EV owner, and then on all the social medias as at Gary with 2 R's WMA, which is nothing to do with Windows Media Audio, although it perhaps ought to be.
Yeah, perhaps that's do a video in itself of old Microsoft formats that no longer supported. Yeah, WMA, WMV, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, all good stuff.
Right, you can find me eat@thisisLifestyle.com, at Dixon on X and on Blue Sky, but YouTube channels where most of my stuff is at the moment. So we'll be back same time, same place next week with guests and more news, and we'll see you then.
Okay.